The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves about change is that the body needs years before it responds. In reality, the human body begins negotiating with effort the very first day it is challenged. The first drop of sweat is not just water leaving the skin. It is a signal, a biochemical announcement that a new contract has been signed between intention and physiology. A day gym challenge is not about proving strength to the mirror or discipline to others. It is about witnessing how quickly the body listens when the mind finally speaks with clarity. Even within days, the nervous system sharpens its communication. Muscles awaken dormant pathways. Hormones begin to recalibrate, and something subtle but undeniable starts to shift inside the person who shows up again and again. Moje Larkakahia. The body responds immediately to challenge, not in dramatic visible ways, but through quiet internal negotiations that begin the moment effort is applied. From the first day of a gym challenge, before muscle fibers thicken or weight changes register on a scale, the nervous system steps forward as a primary agent of adaptation. The brain starts recalibrating how it communicates with the body, refining signals sent to the spinal cord and muscles that may have been dormant, inefficient, or underused for years. This is why the earliest changes feel subtle yet profound. Movements that once felt awkward begin to feel deliberate. Balance improves. Posture adjusts unconsciously, and the body seems to understand instructions with less resistance. Science explains this through neural adaptation, where motor neurons learn to fire in better sequence, recruit muscle fibers more efficiently, and reduce unnecessary tension, allowing strength to emerge from coordination rather than size. In these early days, progress is often misunderstood because it does not conform to popular expectations of transformation. People look for visible muscle definition or dramatic fat loss, but the real work is happening beneath the surface. Synaptic connections strengthen between neurons involved in movement, reaction times shorten, and the brain builds a clearer map of the body in space. This internal rewiring reduces energy waste, meaning the same exercise begins to feel slightly easier, not because the muscles have grown, but because the body has learned how to use what it already has. This learning process is a biological reassurance, evidence that the body is responsive rather than resistant, adaptive rather than fragile. The first days of a gym challenge also initiate a shift in how the body perceives effort. When an unfamiliar load is lifted or the heart rate rises beyond its usual range, sensory receptors send a surge of information to the brain. Initially, this information is interpreted as threat, producing discomfort, hesitation, or fatigue. But repeated exposure teaches a nervous system that this stress is controlled and survivable. As a result, the brain reduces its protective braking mechanisms, allowing more force to be generated and sustained. This is why confidence often increases early in a training journey, not because the body looks different, but because it feels more capable, more cooperative, more predictable. There is also a psychological dimension to this immediate response that is inseparable from physiology. Showing up consistently, even for a short period, reinforces a feedback loop between intention and action. Each completed session sends a signal of reliability to the brain, strengthening neural pathways associated with discipline and follow-through. Over time, this reduces internal friction, making it easier to begin the next workout. The body starts to associate movement with safety and reward rather than exhaustion or failure, which is critical for long-term adherence. This mental shift is often mistaken for motivation, but it is more accurately described as neurological familiarity. Hormonal changes also begin earlier than most people realize. Even a single session of resistance or cardiovascular training influences the release of neurotransmitters and hormones that affect mood, focus, and stress regulation. Endorphins elevate pain tolerance. Dopamine reinforces effort with sense of reward. And stress hormones gradually become more regulated with repeated exposure. These changes contribute to improved sleep quality, sharper concentration, and emotional stability, all of which are real results that shape daily life far beyond the gym environment. Importantly, these immediate adaptations reveal a deeper truth about the human body. It is designed to respond, not to wait. The idea that change requires months before any benefit is felt ignores how survival has shaped our biology. From an evolutionary perspective, the ability to adapt quickly to physical demand was essential, and the nervous system evolved as the fastest route to that adaptation. Muscle growth and structural changes follow later, but they are built on the foundation laid by early neural improvements. Without this foundation, physical transformation would be inefficient, unsustainable, and prone to injury. This understanding reframes the purpose of a gym challenge. The early phase is not a test of patience, but a period of education, where the body learns a new language of movement and effort. Each repetition, each controlled breath, each completed set adds clarity to this dialogue. The body listens closely, adjusting posture, refining balance, and improving control in ways that are felt before they are seen. When people quit early, it is often because they expect visible rewards before these internal negotiations have had time to mature. Recognizing that the body responds immediately changes how success is measured. Progress becomes something felt in steadier breathing, smoother motion, reduced fear of effort, and a growing sense of physical literacy. These changes accumulate quietly, creating momentum that supports later, more visible transformations. The first phase of a gym challenge is therefore not about proving strength, but about establishing communication, teaching the nervous system that the environment has changed and adaptation is required. When this perspective is embraced, impatience softens into curiosity. Instead of asking when results will appear, the individual begins to notice how the body responds day by day, how movements improve, how effort feels more organized, how recovery becomes faster. This awareness strengthens commitment because it is grounded in experience rather than expectation. The body, having been given a clear and consistent signal, continues adjusting, preparing itself for the structural changes that will follow in time, all beginning from that first decision to show up and challenge again. Early gym results are neurological, not visual, and understanding this truth changes how progress is perceived and sustained. When a person begins a gym challenge, the body does not immediately respond by building larger muscles or dramatically altering shape. Instead, the brain takes the lead, refining how it controls movement, effort, and coordination. Strength, in its earliest form, is not about how much muscle exists, but about how effectively the brain can access and organize what is already there. This is why someone may feel stronger within days, even though the mirror shows little difference. The nervous system is learning efficiency, and efficiency is the foundation of all future physical change. Every movement performed in the gym sends information back to the brain. The angle of a joint, the tension in a muscle, the speed of a lift, and the rhythm of breathing are all data points processed in real time. In the beginning, this information is chaotic because the body is unfamiliar with the demands being placed upon it. Muscles may fire out of sequence, stabilizers may lag behind prime movers, and unnecessary tension may be present throughout the body. As training continues, the brain begins to organize this chaos. Motor patterns become cleaner, muscles learn when to contract and when to relax, and movements require less conscious effort. This neurological refinement is why exercises start to feel smoother and more controlled even before any increase in muscle size occurs. One of the most significant early adaptations is improved motor unit recruitment. Each muscle is composed of many motor units, and not all of them are activated during a movement, especially in untrained individuals. Early training teaches the brain to recruit a greater percentage of these motor units simultaneously. This creates an immediate increase in strength without any structural change to the muscle tissue itself. The body is not stronger because it has grown, but because it has learned how to use more of its existing capacity. This process also reduces the risk of injury, as forces are distributed more evenly across tissues instead of being concentrated in a few overworked areas. Balance and stability improvements are another neurological result that often goes unnoticed. Many gym exercises challenge the body's sense of position in space, forcing the brain to integrate visual, vestibular, and proprioceptive information more effectively. Over time, this integration becomes more precise. The individual stands more steadily, transitions between movements more confidently, and reacts more quickly to changes in load or direction. These changes enhance performance not only in the gym but in everyday activities, making the body feel more capable and resilient in ordinary life. The perception of effort also changes due to neurological adaptation. Initially, the brain interprets unfamiliar physical stress as a potential threat, amplifying sensations of fatigue and discomfort. With repeated exposure, the brain recalibrates its threat assessment. The same workload begins to feel less taxing because the nervous system no longer signals alarm as aggressively. This does not mean the body is no longer working hard, but that it is working more intelligently. The reduction in perceived effort is a real and measurable result, even though it cannot be seen externally. These neurological improvements also influence confidence and motivation. When movements become more controlled and predictable, fear of failure diminishes. The individual begins to trust their body, and this trust encourages greater consistency. Each successful session reinforces neural pathways associated with competence and self-efficacy. Over time, going to the gym feels less like a battle of willpower and more like a familiar routine. This shift is crucial because consistency, not intensity, is what ultimately drives long-term physical transformation. It is important to recognize that visible changes lag behind neurological ones for a biological reason. Building new muscle tissue, strengthening connective tissue, and altering body composition requires sustained stimulus and adequate recovery over time. The nervous system adapts quickly because it is designed to respond rapidly to environmental demands. These fast adaptations prepare the body for the slower structural changes that follow. Without this preparation, heavier loads and higher volumes would overwhelm the system, increasing the likelihood of injury and burnout. Misinterpreting early progress often leads people to abandon their efforts prematurely. When expectations are tied only to visual outcomes, the absence of immediate aesthetic change can feel like failure. Understanding that the brain is adapting first reframes the early phase of a gym challenge as a period of learning rather than judging. Each session becomes an investment in coordination, control, and efficiency, all of which compound over time. The body is laying down the infrastructure needed to support future growth. As neurological efficiency increases, the quality of training improves naturally. Better form allows for more effective stimulus, which in turn leads to better structural adaptation later on. The gym challenge becomes a process of alignment between intention and execution, where the body responds with increasing precision. This precision is a silent evidence of progress, felt in how the body moves, how it stabilizes under load, and how quickly it recovers between efforts. When this perspective is fully understood, patience replaces frustration. The individual begins to appreciate subtle wins, such as improved posture and smoother movement patterns. These changes signal that the nervous system is adapting successfully, setting the stage for visible results that will arrive in time. Early neurological progress is not a consolation prize. It is the most critical phase of transformation, quietly reshaping the body's capabilities from the inside out. Consistency rewires metabolism in ways that are often invisible at first yet profoundly influential over time. When the body is exposed to regular training through a gym challenge, it does not simply react to each workout in isolation. Instead, it begins to adjust how it manages energy across the entire day. Every session sends a message that physical demand is now a recurring part of life, and the body responds by reorganizing its internal systems to meet that demand more efficiently. This reorganization happens at the cellular level, long before the scale moves or clothing fits differently, and it is one of the most meaningful indicators that real change is underway. At the center of this shift is the way cells produce and use energy. Regular exercise stimulates improvements in mitochondrial function, allowing cells to generate energy with less waste and greater flexibility. This means the body becomes better at switching between fuel sources, such as carbohydrates and fats, depending on availability and intensity of activity. Early on, this flexibility reduces the dramatic energy swings many people experience, where they feel alert one moment and exhausted the next. As metabolic efficiency improves, energy becomes more stable, and the body begins to operate with a sense of rhythm rather than constant fluctuation. Consistency also improves how the body handles glucose, which plays a critical role in both performance and long-term health. Repeated muscle contractions increase insulin sensitivity, allowing glucose to move from the bloodstream into muscle cells more effectively. This reduces the strain on the pancreas and lowers the likelihood of sharp blood sugar spikes and crashes. Even without significant fat loss, this adaptation enhances mental clarity, reduces cravings driven by unstable blood sugar, and supports sustained energy throughout the day. These changes often go unnoticed because they do not announce themselves visually, yet they shape how the body feels and functions on a fundamental level. Hormonal regulation is another area where consistent training exerts a quiet but powerful influence. Exercise acts as a controlled stressor that teaches the body how to manage stress more effectively. Over time, the release of stress hormones becomes more balanced, preventing them from remaining chronically elevated. This improves recovery, supports immune function, and contributes to better sleep quality. Sleep itself then reinforces metabolic health, creating a positive feedback loop where energy regulation and recovery continuously support one another. Regular training also influences appetite in a way that is more nuanced than simply increasing hunger. The body begins to align hunger signals with actual energy needs rather than emotional or habitual triggers. This is partly due to improved communication between the gut and the brain, as well as more stable blood sugar levels. People often find that they become more attuned to what their body needs, experiencing fewer intense cravings and a clearer sense of fullness. This metabolic clarity supports healthier eating behaviors without the need for rigid control or restriction. The metabolic effects of consistency extend beyond energy production to how the body stores and mobilizes fuel. With regular demand for movement, the body becomes more willing to release stored energy when needed. Fat tissue becomes more metabolically active, responding to hormonal signals that encourage its use as a fuel source. This does not necessarily result in rapid weight loss, but it represents a shift in how the body prioritizes energy availability. The body begins to trust that movement will continue, reducing its tendency to conserve excessively. Importantly, these adaptations depend on repetition rather than intensity. A single intense workout can temporarily increase energy expenditure, but it does not produce the same lasting metabolic changes as consistent, moderate effort. The body responds to patterns, not events. When training occurs regularly, the metabolic system learns to anticipate demand and prepare for it. This anticipation reduces the cost of movement, making physical activity feel more sustainable rather than draining. This metabolic rewiring also affects how the body responds to rest days. Recovery becomes more efficient because the body has learned to allocate resources appropriately. Inflammation resolves more quickly, glycogen stores replenish more effectively, and tissues repair themselves with greater precision. This efficiency allows for more frequent and productive training sessions, further reinforcing the cycle of adaptation. Understanding consistency as a metabolic signal changes how progress is evaluated. Instead of focusing solely on immediate external changes, attention shifts to internal markers such as steady energy levels, improved sleep, and greater resilience to stress. These markers indicate that the body is adapting at a systemic level, creating conditions that support long-term health and performance. The gym challenge becomes less about forcing change and more about teaching the body a new pattern of living. As these metabolic adaptations accumulate, they create a foundation for visible transformation. Muscle growth, fat loss, and changes in body composition become more likely because the internal environment now supports them. The body has learned how to manage energy effectively, reducing resistance to change. What began as a simple commitment to show up consistently evolves into a comprehensive recalibration of how the body fuels itself, recovers, and performs, all driven by the steady repetition of effort applied with patience and respect. Discomfort is not damage. It is information, and within a structured gym challenge, this distinction becomes essential to understanding real progress. When the body encounters unfamiliar stress, such as lifting weights or sustaining an elevated heart rate, it communicates through sensations that are often labeled as pain, fatigue, or soreness. These sensations are not inherently harmful. They are signals generated by the nervous system to report that the body is operating outside its usual range. Interpreting these signals correctly allows adaptation to occur, while misinterpreting them can lead either to fear-driven avoidance or reckless overexertion. In the early stages of training, discomfort is amplified because the nervous system has not yet learned how to classify the new stress. Sensory receptors in muscles and connective tissue send intense feedback to the brain, which responds cautiously by limiting output. This protective response is designed to prevent injury in unfamiliar situations. As exposure continues under controlled conditions, the brain updates its assessment. Movements that once felt threatening are reclassified as manageable, and the volume of warning signals decreases. This reduction in discomfort does not mean the body has stopped adapting, but that it has learned the difference between harmful strain and productive effort. At the tissue level, Controlled stress initiates repair mechanisms that strengthen the body. Resistance training creates microscopic disruptions in muscle fibers, which trigger a cascade of biological responses aimed at repair and reinforcement. The body rebuilds these fibers to be more resilient, better prepared for future demands. Similar processes occur in connective tissue and bone, where mechanical loading stimulates increased density and structural integrity. Discomfort during and after training reflects this remodeling process, a temporary state of imbalance that precedes improvement. Understanding discomfort as information also sharpens body awareness. As individuals become more experienced, they learn to distinguish between different types of sensations. The deep fatigue of a worked muscle feels different from sharp joint pain, and breathlessness during cardiovascular effort differs from dizziness or loss of control. This discernment allows training to be adjusted intelligently, increasing challenge where adaptation is needed and reducing load where recovery is required. Over time, this skill transforms a gym from a place of blind exertion into a space of attentive experimentation. Psychologically, reframing discomfort reduces fear and builds resilience. When effort is no longer automatically associated with harm, the mind becomes more willing to engage fully. Each successful encounter with manageable discomfort reinforces the belief that the body can endure challenge without breaking. This belief extends beyond physical training, influencing how stress is approached in daily life. The individual becomes more capable of staying present during difficulty, trusting that discomfort is often a temporary state rather than a permanent condition. The hormonal response to controlled discomfort further supports adaptation. Physical stress stimulates the release of growth-promoting hormones that facilitate tissue repair and metabolic improvement. These responses are dose-dependent. They require sufficient challenge to activate, but not so much that recovery systems are overwhelmed. Learning to operate within this optimal range is one of the most valuable outcomes of a gym challenge. It teaches respect for the body's limits while encouraging gradual expansion of those limits. Delayed onset muscle soreness is a common example of discomfort carrying useful information. It indicates that tissues were stressed in a novel way and are undergoing repair. While excessive soreness can signal overtraining, moderate soreness reflects adaptation and progress. Recognizing this distinction prevents unnecessary anxiety and promotes patience. The body is not failing. It is responding exactly as it is designed to respond when asked to grow stronger. Discomfort also plays a role in refining technique. When movements are performed inefficiently, certain areas may experience disproportionate strain. Paying attention to where discomfort arises helps identify imbalances or technical errors. Adjustments in posture, range of motion, or breathing often reduce unnecessary stress while preserving the intended challenge. This feedback loop enhances movement quality, making training safer and more effective over time. Importantly, viewing discomfort as information fosters a collaborative relationship with the body rather than an adversarial one. Instead of forcing the body into submission, the individual learns to listen and respond. Training becomes a conversation where effort is applied, feedback is received, and adjustments are made. This dynamic interaction accelerates learning and reduces the risk of injury, as the body is guided rather than ignored. As this perspective solidifies, tolerance for productive discomfort increases naturally. The body adapts not by eliminating sensation, but by improving its capacity to manage it. What once felt overwhelming becomes familiar, then manageable, then routine. This progression reflects the success of adaptation, where the nervous system, tissues, and mind align to handle greater demands with less disruption. The gym challenge thus becomes an education in interpreting the body's signals accurately, allowing discomfort to serve its intended purpose as a guide towards strength and resilience rather than a barrier to progress. Sustainable results are driven by compassion, not punishment, and this principle becomes increasingly evident as one progresses through a gym challenge. Many people approach training with a mindset of strict discipline, viewing each session as a test of willpower and every missed workout as failure. While this approach may generate short-term results, it often leads to burnout, injury, or frustration because it ignores the body's natural need for care, recovery, and gradual adaptation. True transformation arises when effort is paired with understanding, patience, and respect for the complex systems that govern physical and mental performance. Compassion allows the individual to engage fully without unnecessary fear or self-criticism, creating an environment in which the body can respond generously to consistent stimulus. Compassion begins with listening to the body's signals and responding intelligently rather than rigidly. Fatigue, soreness, or signs of overuse are not weaknesses. They are cues that adjustment is necessary. When rest, mobility work, or lighter sessions are integrated thoughtfully into training, the body adapts more efficiently than it would under relentless pressure. Recovery is not the absence of progress. It is a phase in which adaptation is consolidated. Muscle fibers rebuild stronger, connective tissue fortifies, hormonal balance is restored, and the nervous system recalibrates. By respecting these natural cycles, the individual fosters an environment where strength and endurance can grow sustainably. Nutrition is another dimension where compassion directly influences results. Instead of imposing rigid restrictions or punitive diets, a compassionate approach encourages nourishment that supports both performance and long-term health. Adequate protein intake facilitates tissue repair, balanced macronutrients sustain energy, and micronutrients support cellular function and recovery. This mindset reframes food from a source of guilt to a tool for empowerment, reinforcing the connection between effort in the gym and its biological consequences. Over time, this fosters a healthier relationship with the body, where eating and training are part of a coherent system rather than conflicting forces. Compassion also manifests in how progress is measured. Visible changes in physique, strength, or endurance are only part of the story. Equally important are subtle improvements, better coordination, reduced fatigue, improve mood, and heighten awareness of a body's capabilities. Recognizing these signs encourages continued engagement and strengthens the psychological foundations of long-term change. When progress is celebrated at multiple levels, physical, neurological, and emotional, motivation becomes intrinsic, reducing the need for external pressure or harsh self-evaluation. Rest and recovery strategies illustrate the power of compassion in practice. Sleep is one of the most critical factors for adaptation, allowing the body to repair tissue, consolidate neural learning, and regulate hormones. Overlooking rest in pursuit of relentless training undermines these processes, while intentional recovery accelerates them. Similarly, practices such as stretching, mobility work, and active recovery respect the body's need for flexibility and resilience, enhancing performance in subsequent sessions. Compassionate training is not passive. It is a deliberate engagement with the body's requirements, balancing challenge with support. Mental resilience is cultivated alongside physical capacity when compassion is prioritized. Many gym goers equate intensity with toughness, believing that self-punishment builds character. In reality, sustainable resilience emerges from consistent, mindful effort that acknowledges limits while gently expanding them. The mind learns to tolerate discomfort without fear, to persist without forcing the body beyond safe thresholds, and to celebrate incremental victories without obsession over perfection. This psychological conditioning enhances adherence, reduces anxiety about effort, and transforms training into a source of empowerment rather than stress. Compassion extends to the understanding that transformation is a cumulative process rather than a series of immediate achievements. Biological systems respond to repeated, well-regulated signals over time, and impatience can disrupt this process. Recognizing that setbacks, plateaus, or slow progress are natural components of adaptation fosters patience. When the individual approaches each session with curiosity and respect rather than punishment, the body remains receptive, and the process of improvement continues without unnecessary interference. Social and emotional aspects of training are also influenced by compassion. Comparing oneself to others, rushing progress, or internalizing external judgments can create unnecessary stress that impedes adaptation. Approaching fitness as a personal journey, guided by self-awareness and kindness, strengthens a mind-body connection. The individual learns to value effort, consistency, and intention over appearance alone. This perspective reduces anxiety, supports sustained engagement, and reinforces the internal cues that guide intelligent training decisions. Moreover, compassionate training fosters a sense of autonomy and self-efficacy. When effort is framed as a dialogue with the body rather than a battle against it, individuals feel more in control of their progress. Choices about intensity, frequency, nutrition, and recovery are informed by observation and experience rather than fear or guilt. This autonomy enhances intrinsic motivation, making it more likely that the gym challenge will be maintained over time and that the results achieved will be lasting. The individual learns to trust their judgment and the body's capacity to respond intelligently to well-applied stimulus. Compassion also shapes the long-term sustainability of results by preventing overtraining and injury. Pushing through pain, ignoring fatigue, or sacrificing recovery may produce short-term gains, but these gains are fragile and often temporary. By contrast, a compassion approach ensures that the body is strengthened progressively, tissues are reinforced, and the nervous system is not overstressed. This reduces the likelihood of setbacks, allowing consistent effort to accumulate into meaningful, durable change. Ultimately, approaching the gym challenge with compassion transforms the entire experience. The body is no longer viewed as an opponent to be punished or a machine to be forced into shape, but as a responsive, adaptive system that thrives under attentive care. Each session becomes an act of collaboration, where effort is applied thoughtfully, feedback is observed carefully, and adjustments are made intelligently. This approach creates a positive feedback loop in which the body responds generously to consistent challenge. The mind grows more confident in its abilities, and the individual develops a sustainable relationship with health and fitness. Transformation becomes a natural consequence of respect, patience, and understanding rather than a product of self-criticism or extreme discipline. And the journey itself cultivates strength, awareness, and resilience across physical, mental, and emotional domains.